16 and 0. 16 and 0. That's the first time in my prediction history that I've gone 16 and 0 or have gotten all the games in a week predicted correctly. That's impressive. Hey guys, Santa Claus here with another set of NFL predictions. This time it's week number 14. So the teams that are on bye this week are the last 6 teams to have a bye. So this is the last bye week, technically. So there are 13 games this week. So the teams that are on bye are the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, the New England Patriots, the Denver Broncos, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Washington Commanders. All 6 of these teams have played 13 games. So this will be game 13 for everybody else who has already had their bye week. So, anyways, tonight we have the Green Bay Packers taking on the Detroit Lions. I am going with the Lions for this one. Although this is going to be a good game, I think the Lions have a juggernaut of an offense, and so do the Packers. That's why they're 9-3. But I think the Lions have a better chance at securing the division with 12 wins here. So this will put them at 12-1, and the Packers 9-4. They will probably clinch a wild card spot. So, anyways, I am going with the Lions. Next, we have the Cleveland Browns taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I am going to go with the Steelers for this matchup. The Steelers have already clinched their 21st winning season in a row, and they're 18th under Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season as the head coach. He almost did in 2022, and I think 2023, because I remember one of those years they started 2-6. So, and they ended up turning it around and finishing the year 9-8 in 2022, and then 10-7 in 2023. So they already have 9 wins. And as for the Browns, your season's over. Your season's pretty much it's been over. But you're currently 3-9, and you're probably going to face elimination from the playoffs after this loss. So the Steelers will be 10-3, and the Browns 3-10. And I think they will be in last place in the AFC North. So I'm going with the Steelers over the Browns. This puts them at 3-10. Oh, and also next week, week 15, I will be at the Kansas City Chiefs game over the Cleveland Browns. So that's next week. So as long as the weather holds up, I'll be okay. Next, we have the New Orleans Saints taking on the New York Giants. I'm actually going with the Saints. Although they are 4-8, they still have a chance to make the playoffs. Their season isn't over just yet. However, for the Giants, their season's over. They're 2-10. They're eliminated from playoff contention. 1 out of 4 teams to be eliminated. Them, the Raiders, the Patriots, and the Jaguars were all eliminated in week 13. So, anyways, I am going to go with the Saints. They will be 5-8. And as for the Giants, they will be 2-11. So not a good year for the Giants. Although they drafted the wide receiver of the future, Malik Neighbors, just never worked out. They don't have a competent QB room. They probably should get one in the draft. Probably get Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward out of Miami. So I'm going to go with the Saints. They'll be 5-8. The Giants will be 2-11. The New York Jets take on the Miami Dolphins. I am going to go with the Dolphins for this game. The Dolphins are coming off a big loss against Green Bay, and they won't be improving on their record, 11-6 record from 2023. They are sitting at 5-7, and the AFC East is not theirs. So the Bills already clinched the division. So, and they get home field advantage throughout the playoffs, depending on their seed, of course. If they have to play the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, then the Chiefs will probably get the home field advantage. But I am going with the Dolphins for this game. This puts them at 6-7. And as for the Jets, this puts you at 3-10, and probably your season's probably over at that point. So, I'm going with the Miami Dolphins over the Jets. This puts them at 6-7, and as for the Jets, this puts them at 3-10, and their season's probably over. Speaking of over seasons, the Jacksonville Jaguars are taking on the Tennessee Titans. The Jaguars at 2-10 are currently eliminated from playoff contention after Denver beat the Cleveland Browns. And as for the Titans, they're currently 3-9, and they're probably facing elimination as well. Although they do have a slim chance to make the playoffs with, being in third place in the AFC South. So as for the Jaguars, I'm going to go with the Jaguars. Actually, no, I'm going with Tennessee. Scratch that. I'm going with the Titans over the Jaguars. This puts the Jaguars at 2-11, and the Titans 4-9. Although the Titans did beat Houston, so it's possible that they can also beat Jacksonville in Tennessee. Both of this team is just this is a tank bowl right here. Jags Titans. This is a tank bowl. And Doug Peterson is probably gone after the year. Brian Callahan is probably going to stay. I don't think it was Brian Callahan's fault. I think it's, they don't have enough talent to be, good. So that's why they're 3-9. But they can beat bad teams. That's why they'll be 4-9 here. And as for the Jags, they will be 2-11. And they will be going into a downward spiral. So the Jaguars are bad again. So the Atlanta Falcons take on the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going with the Vikings here. So this will be determined by, I think the Lions have the tiebreaker over the Vikings. So even if the Lions lose to Green Bay tonight and the Vikings beat the Falcons, they would have the same record. Actually, no, they wouldn't have the same record. Actually, yes, they would. They would both be 11-2. But the Lions would still get the tiebreaker, regardless. So I am going with the Minnesota Vikings over the Atlanta Falcons. This puts them at 11-2, and it probably means that they clinch a playoff spot in the NFC. So, not the division. That's probably going to be Detroit. But, yeah, I'm going with the Vikings over the Falcons. This puts them at 11-2, and the Falcons 6-7. The Carolina Panthers take on the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going with the Eagles. They beat the Baltimore Ravens pretty convincingly, although they did score a touchdown near the end of the game and try and go for two, but that failed. So The Eagles beat the Ravens 24-18. And as for the Panthers, their season is off to a whimpering close. They will probably be eliminated from the playoffs at 3-10. And as for the Eagles, this puts them at 11-2, and I think this could clinch the NFC East for the Eagles. So, as long as they don't collapse, they are currently 10-2. So, as long as they don't collapse, they're currently on an 8-game win streak. So, and it's in Philadelphia, and it's Carolina. So, there's no reason the Eagles shouldn't win this game. So, I'm going with the Eagles. This puts them at 11-2, and the Panthers 3-10. The Las Vegas Raiders take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I am going with the Bucs. The Raiders are bad. And I think Antonio Pierce is to blame. He's not a very good coach to begin with. And, I think they would have failed still under Josh McDaniels. I think Antonio Pierce was a desperation hire because although he won the locker room at the end of last year when Josh McDaniels got canned and, everybody respected him in the locker room, and he's just not a good analytical coach. It's just, I don't get it. I don't think Antonio Pierce is cut out to be a head coach in the National Football League. And neither is Todd Bowles, but somehow the Bucs keep making the playoffs because, lo and behold, they have talent, and their division is usually horseshit. So, As for the Bucs, this puts them at 7-6. And the Raiders 2-11. Their season has been over for a while. The Seattle Seahawks take on the Arizona Cardinals. This is an NFC West matchup. I am going with the Seahawks for this game. The Cardinals are kind of mid. I thought that they would be good at 6-4 after 10 games. I wasn't expecting them to start 6-4. But they're currently 6-6, and they will be 6-7 after this game. The Seahawks will be 8-5. It'll probably clinch the NFC West. The NFC West is just bad this year. NFC West is just as bad as the NFC South. There are two divisions in the NFC that are just god-awful, and they are the NFC West and the NFC South. And the Seahawks will probably win the division because bullshit. And, Cardinals are probably going to finish the year 6-11 if they lose out. So, but I am going with the Seattle Seahawks. They will be 8-5, and the Cardinals 6-7. Do I really have to go over the Chicago Bears? They're taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Matt Eberflus, what a guy. What a coach. He has a timeout in his vicinity with 30 seconds left. His men are trying to scramble in a formation to get a play on. Flus doesn't take the timeout. They run the play. The game is over. Bro wasted 30 seconds trying to get one play on. Are you kidding me? I was like, call the timeout, Matt. Even I, a person who doesn't have any NFL coaching experience or any coaching experience at all, would use that timeout. See, this is one of those moments where I'm smarter than the head coach. An NFL head coach, mind you. I am smarter than an NFL head coach. That's why he got fired. It's the first time. It's also the first time the Bears fired a head coach mid-season. In their history, in their 100-year history, they have never fired a head coach mid-season until this year. It just baffles me how bad Matt Eberflus was as a coach. He was holding Justin Fields back. He was holding Caleb back. I mean, to be fair, Caleb was just a rookie, and he's just trying to get into the system. But he is his starting QB. What do? You just let Flus ruin you? What do you do at that point? You start the year 4-2. You lose 6 straight. And your last game as a head coach, you completely flounder the timeout. It falls flat on its face, and I don't get it. I really don't get it. But the Bears are playing the 49ers. I'm going with San Francisco. Although they are having a shitty year as well. They're 5-7. The Bears are 4-8. This would clinch a losing season for Chicago. This would be their 7th straight loss. This puts them at 4-9. The 49ers will be 6-7. I don't think. I think that would be much fitting, since they're playing a team with 4-9 in their name, and they will be 4-9 after this game. I'm still baffled by the timeout thing. Like, what? How are you that stupid? I don't get it. How am I, a person that has no coaching experience whatsoever, how am I smarter than Matt Eberflus? That dude is just boneheaded. And to think that he was defending his decision after the fact. Your clock is running, call a timeout, and then run a play. Don't set your men up and then run a play and waste 30 seconds off the clock. That's why you got fired, Matt. But I am going with the 49ers. This puts them at 6-7. And this would be a fitting record for the Chicago Bears. 4-9. Next, we have the Buffalo Bills, who were dominant against the 49ers last week, taking on the LA Rams. I'm actually going with the Bills. The Bills won this matchup 2 years ago in the season opener when I believe that's when Von Miller signed his contract with the Rams. Although Von Miller was traded from the Broncos to the Rams, and then he won a Super Bowl. And then, after that, he went to the Buffalo. And this is a 4 o'clock game and not an 8 o'clock game. The last time these two teams played, I believe, was 2022. The season opener for the 2022 season, and the Rams lost. They were 5-12 that year, so they're currently 6-6. This puts them at 6-7. The Bills already clinched the AFC East, but they will be 11-2. Here we go. Sunday night, we get the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs always find the most bizarre ways to win football games. And that's why they're 11-1. I don't know how they do it. Week 1 against the Ravens. The Ravens lost by a toe. They had a chance to beat the Chiefs. And Isaiah Likely was this close out of bounds. Week 2 against Cincinnati. Pass interference. That's all I got to say about that. Week 3, same thing. Pass interference calls not called. Well, actually, it was the opposite because they were both called on Cincinnati and, actually, no. It was called in the Cincinnati game, and then they did it in Atlanta, and they didn't even call it on Brian Cook, which was just like, it was so bizarre. How are they 11-1? Their only loss was to the Buffalo Bills in Week 11. How did they do it? Oh, yeah. Week 10 against Denver. They had that blocked field goal. And that's how they won that game. They escaped most of their wins this year. We escaped a lot of our wins. And I can't understand how we're 11-1. We should be at least 9-3 or 8-4 at this point. There were a couple games that we should have lost. Baltimore, Cincinnati, Atlanta, maybe Tampa Bay. I don't know. Definitely Buffalo. We lost to Buffalo. And we'll probably beat them in the playoffs. But, that's going to be... I don't get it. And the Raiders. The botch snapped at the very end. I don't get it. But anyways, we are playing the Los Angeles Chargers, and we will beat the Chargers. Although they're 8-5, this will definitely be a good game. But I think the Chiefs pull out with a win. It's just, fan bias as well. But 12-1 never looked so good. We've already clinched a playoff spot. We haven't formally clinched the AFC West yet. We're probably going to clinch it, which, this year has just been utter bull. We're going to three-peat. Watch it. Watch the playoffs. We're going to beat Buffalo. We're not even going to play Cincinnati because they're not going to make it. Baltimore. Pittsburgh. Maybe Denver. But anyways, I am picking the Chiefs over the Chargers. And then next week, we come to Cleveland. Next week, December 15th, we are going to Cleveland. I am going to be at that game in my Chiefs gear, and I will be cheering on my team. Too bad they scheduled it very late in the year. That would have been nice if, it was in like October. But it is December, and that game is supposed to go on next week. So I'm going with the Chiefs or the Chargers. And the Chargers will be 8-5. Same record as Denver. And last but not least, we have the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Dallas Cowboys. I am actually going with the Bengals. They have just been really... Their record doesn't show it. Their record doesn't show how good they are on offense. Joe Burrow slings that ball to either Chase, Higgins, even the occasional tight end sometimes. But their stat line does not match their record. I think Burrow threw for 300 yards against the Chargers, and they still lost. He dominated against the Chargers, yet they still lost. This team should not be 4-8. They should be at least 9-3. With that stat line, they should have beat Pittsburgh. Starting with that pick six, It's in Dallas. This is also the Simpsons game that'll be broadcast on Disney Plus. I'm not sponsored by Disney, but I'm just saying because they're also going to broadcast the game because ESPN is owned by Disney and blah blah blah. This is the Monday night game. I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals. This puts them at 5-8, and for the Cowboys, this also puts them at 5-8. Although they've won 2 in a row, I don't think they will ever make the playoffs. So I am going with the Bengals for this game. As you can see in the bottom corner here, you have the Chiefs and the Browns. I will be at that game. I will be doing a vlog for it. And that'll be out at least sometime a couple days after. Because I got to edit it, process it, and, all that stuff. But I will be vlogging at the game. We will be close towards the end zone. We'll be in, section 100. One of the 100 sections. So, anyways, we'll see you guys next week when we cover Week 15. Week 15 I will be covering on December the 12th. So, we'll see you guys then.